Today's lunch discussion is a special session, hosted by Qualcomm. I wanted to invite everyone to quickly visit our stations and make sure that or quickly visit the expo downstairs. There is a ton of amazing people down there, and Qualcomm has a huge booth down there. And one of their partners that's coming up has a great booth in the exhibition center as well. So make sure you go visit the exhibition center. So I want to thank you for all being cooperative. And our next panel is called A Sneak Peek at the Future of Digital Health. Let me introduce our speaker and moderator for this session, Don Jones, Vice President of Business Development for Health and Life Sciences at Qualcomm. Don is responsible for wireless technologies in the health and life sciences market, where Qualcomm is a recognized leader. In 2005, he founded the Wireless Life Sciences Alliance. He sits on the boards of the Alliance Healthcare Foundation and the American Telemedicine Association, and he was a founding board member of the West Wireless Health Institute. He also was recently named to the Consumer Products Innovations Board at Sanofi Aventis Pharmaceuticals. So Don, why don't you get us started?
Good afternoon. I guess I'm going to be your entertainment while you chew. But my job here for the next 20 minutes or so is to introduce you into what Qualcomm's doing in the wireless health ecosystem and how we're helping bring wireless technologies into the world of healthcare and fitness and consumer health. And then I brought 3 companies along with me that I'd like to introduce you to and let them talk a little bit about their products. We look at healthcare and wireless technologies and their combination as bringing an opportunity to collapse time and space, make things happen faster than they would otherwise happen, but for the wireless connectivity. That's where the return on investment lies, making things happen faster than they otherwise would. Qualcomm's the largest provider of cellular technology for mobile devices around the world. We make more cellular chips that go into more mobile devices than anyone else in the world, and have a lot of other intellectual property and technologies that we're using as essentially components to help enable the healthcare industry to provide connectivity and make that collapse of time and space event occur. It's also the most pervasive consumer electronics. You can see by the numbers here, we've got about 5 billion, over 5 billion mobile devices compared to televisions, desktop PCs, and mobile PCs. This is the world's most pervasive consumer electronic technology. There are actually more cell phone users than there are toothbrush users in the world. Think about that from a healthcare perspective, especially while you're eating lunch here. More people have access to a cellular network in the world than they do to running water or to electricity. So obviously mobile devices are really becoming a center of life, and I'm sure many of you have smartphones and you're beginning to move some of your computing activities onto your phones and into your mobile life. You've certainly seen a lot of announcements about different new tablets and other devices, but really the opportunity going forward is a whole new set of connected devices that go beyond the things that we're used to, like cell phones and tablets and PCs, and into a world of other devices, of which obviously those products in the health and wellness and fitness centers are some of those products. So I'm sure most of you are aware of the issues in the healthcare world, the traditional healthcare world. There's big issues. We've got an aging population, especially in Europe, Japan, and the United States. Lots of chronic diseases. These are high costs. But that's not the only opportunity in this space. There's lots of opportunity in kind of the consumer health and the fitness world as well. So where do we see the opportunities? We see them in these areas. Lots of body-worn sensors. We actually see them in areas like wireless pills. We'll talk to you about that a little bit. In monitoring, in therapy management, in titration of drugs and medications. These are all areas that will see wireless solutions. One of the solutions that we brought into the market is the world's smallest cellular module. I'm holding one here in my hand. It's the size of a nickel. Basically, what this allows a manufacturer of any device to do, if they can fit a nickel inside of their box, whatever they make, they can put their devices and node on the net. This particular module was actually built for wearable medical devices, one of which you're going to see later in my presentation here. It actually adds assisted GPS for location. It adds accelerometer for motion. It has a lot of interfaces for other sensors. So specifically kind of optimized for the marketplace of wearable mobile devices. So let me show you some examples of the ecosystem of partners that we're building to bring together this environment of a wireless health vision. In our world, traditional world of Qualcomm and the telco world, we deal with brands like the ones you see up here, operators, manufacturers, the webcos, and the media services. It's not necessarily a health or fitness or consumer or healthcare kind of list. What we have to do is we have to bring another list to bear, the folks that work in the healthcare world, and converge that with the folks that work in the wireless world. And that's what my team works on. This is a really interesting phenomenon that's happening in this convergence. This happens to be an example of the member list of Continuo, which is a standards-based group in the mobile health space. But what I think makes it most interesting is the categories of players that are playing in this space today. There's about 250 companies from around the world that are participating in Continua. And you see they come from the medical device industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the health insurer industry, the wireless industry, and the healthcare provider industry, all in one trade organization. That's kind of an interesting mix to occur. The fact that they're all there now and you recognize many of those brands is an indication of what's been happening kind of behind the scenes. There's also a lot of very innovative business opportunities in this space, and we'll cover a couple of them here shortly. But I'm going to walk you through some of the transitions we're seeing here. Many of you in the room may have had a Holter monitor at some point in your life, and even recently today, a Holter monitor, which is an ECG continuously monitored for a period of time, looks like that. It's not a particularly pleasant experience to go get it set up, and it's not a particular experience to go back and turn it back in. This is a Holter monitor that's cellular-based that was launched 8 years ago. A little better, looks a little better. The FedEx man brings it to you, and when you're done, you put it back in the FedEx box. Much more convenient for the consumer than the traditional ways of getting a Holter monitor. This is one from Corventis. This actually does way more than the Holter monitor. It actually does a lot of other diagnostics. There's 8 different medical sensors built into that one little patch. This is already commercial. This is showing you the evolutionary path of what's happening. These are all wireless products. And this is the newest one from Zeo, which looks almost like something Nike or another consumer products company might produce. And that's an example of a trend. We're seeing medical products being developed with an eye towards being consumer-friendly from an industrial design perspective. And I think there's quite a few examples of that out on the show floor this year. This is an example of a cell phone-based electrocardiogram device. It's actually in Singapore. This is a service provided in Singapore for folks that need cardiac monitoring on a phone that provides all of the cell phone services and a variety of other cardiac monitoring services in the Singapore market. This is a 3M product. It's a stethoscope. It's an electronic stethoscope. It amplifies the signal, but 2 users can talk to each other via the stethoscope. So you can have a patient at home and a doctor in the office. The doctor can listen to the patient's heart, and they can literally talk to each other via the stethoscope. These are some of the very interesting examples of what's coming on. I'm going to walk you through some of the interesting business models. Phones that remind you to take your medications. Compliance is huge. Lots of interest from the healthcare community, from the payer community to make sure that you are compliant with your drug therapy. Lots of interest from the pharmaceutical manufacturers to be compliant because compliance equals consumption. Consumption equals sales. So this is a company that actually has an application on all 3 of the major carriers in the United States that actually sets up reminders and allows you to maintain medication lists and provide third-party confirmation, say if you're trying to follow a son or a daughter or an elderly patient.